All right, so ladies and gentlemen, as I ushered you into IBM Presents, the Economic Times DataCon Virtual Summit, that you know is very much co-powered by Cloudera, Hitachi, Ventera, and Microsoft, our innovation partner being Dell and Intel. Remember, I did say that we are going to enter into a war room. Now, I'm going to testify why did I say it would be like a war room, because the next panel discussion would be a power panel that's going to focus from the battlefield to the boardroom, security as a boardroom talk. Well, before I lead you all into the next panel discussion, I must reiterate those exciting announcements for all of you, while I am hoping that you're already gearing up in the mood to share your perspectives using our official hashtag, that is ETDataCon. In the meanwhile, I must tell you that the first 350 delegates must have grabbed, for now, at least in my announcements, those branded sunglasses. And with this cool announcement, of course, I have to tell you that you are entitled to win Amazon gift vouchers worth rupees 4 lakhs, and that's humongous. While I say all this, you all also have to do a little leg room and little leg work, on the platform, on the virtual platform there. Make sure that you are interacting live with our experts there, stationed dutifully at the booths. So make sure you chat with them, interact with them, and gain all the actionable insights. Please do participate in the poll. Please do fill in the survey. And on that note, if there's any more information that you need, you must check our website for more terms and conditions. So yes, that brings me on into further building the vibe around this power panel, as we call it. So this inaugural edition, ladies and gentlemen, would actually guide your way towards the potential of security dynamics through the very eminent panelists who are, again, very dutifully waiting for all your attention there. So yes, we're going to redefine the CISO role from advantage to imperative this time. Please allow me to welcome our panelists on board. Let's welcome Venkatesh Subramaniam, Global Chief Information Security Officer from Olam International. Hi, sir. So good to be meeting you. How are you doing?
Very good, and great to be here.
All right, likewise. Thank you so much for joining us right in time. With that, please allow me to also welcome Dr. Erdal Ozkaya, Regional Chief Information Security Officer and Managing Director from Global Financial Institution. Hi there.
Hello, everybody. And I hope everybody is safe. Everybody is watching us. We're promising a good time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that warm cheer. With that, let's welcome Andy Bates, Executive Director from Global Cyber Alliance. Hi there.
Hello, and thanks for the opportunity to speak with you all. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And with that, let's also welcome Manish Sinha, Corporate Chief Technology Officer from Loreal SA.
Hi.
Hi, sir.
Very nice meeting you.
Good to be meeting you and welcoming you. Well, I keep reminding myself that, okay, Shikha use E. Okay, electronic welcome to you as well. With that, let's also welcome our dearest Suchishree Chatterjee, MD from Deutsche Bank Group. Hi, ma'am.
Hello, hi. And as everybody else, extremely excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to, of course, hand over the strings of the conversation towards the smiling moderator there, Sony Anthony, partner KPMG. It's over to you.
Thank you, Shikha. Thank you for bringing us onto this very powerful panel. A very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to this panel discussion on the subject from the battlefield to the boardroom. My name, like Shikha said, is Sony Anthony. I'm a partner with KPMG. I'm leading cyber. I'm happy to be moderating this session, and I'm sure, like me, we all want to have an enhanced view on how the role of a CISO is changing, or I might say how it is being redefined. Not too long ago, going to office was like entering a castle. The organization data was managed within the premise, and the security was monitored and protected. Everything that was going in and out of the premise, and the basic assumption was that everything within a security perimeter can be trusted. Today, we no longer must enter the office building to come to work. Companies have enabled work from home, and with this, a wide array of attack vectors, entry points, cyber criminals have come into picture. Right from mobile devices, IoT devices, shared routers in families, with friends in apartment complexes, unfiltered direct internet access in some way is changing the way that we are connecting to the enterprise and exchanging data. Added to this exponential increase in the number of COVID-based theme cyber attacks. Large number of companies, irrespective of size, and advanced cyber maturity levels are also being targeted for ransomware and data exfiltration, right? Clearly, it is now a new security paradigm, and the approach is never trust, always verify. In other words, a security state of mind where no device, no user, no workload, no application should be trusted. And with that, the new age CISO is now part of boardroom discussions as well. Their KPIs are very different. Very different what it was 5 years ago to what it is now 5 months ago. It has changed dramatically, right? So let's get this new perspective of what's changed in this new post-COVID CISO, their role, the expected KPIs, their new challenges in this environment. On this panel, I'm joined by esteemed and eminent personnel from the industry, security consulting, communities, and in industries and sectors like banking, food, agri, and FMCG, right? And I'm very happy to be part of this panel. I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot. I'm sure the audience is also going to have a lot of questions that they'll pose to the panelists. With that, I'll get on to my first question. And my first question is, with cybersecurity a boardroom agenda today, do you see the CISO playing a larger role in the organization they support? If yes, how is it? Is it just updates to the board? Is it increasing awareness levels to the board and interactions with the board? Is it getting involved in providing cyber strategy views? My question is first to Venkat. Venkat, what's your view?
Thanks, Sony. I strongly feel that CISOs need to position themselves appropriately, at least in a couple of aspects. One being that they should position themselves more as assurance provider rather than the traditional technical back office gatekeepers. And for this, they need to communicate effectively as to what could be the implications of something bad happening. Like, it could be a loss of reputation, loss of intellectual properties, business disruption, or regulatory fines. So what is important is that the CISO should be seen as a trusted partner for the board, where he stands up every quarter and provides the assurance that he has things under control through the security program. So that positioning is extremely important rather than a back office kind of a role. The second thing is, I would say from a positioning perspective, the CISO needs to see himself and as well as position himself as a business strategy enabler. And for this, he needs to do three things properly. One is he has to align with the key business initiatives which are happening. He needs to be a better collaborator and have open communications with other stakeholders. And above all, I would say he needs to be also an innovator, especially in these times like of pandemic, where there would be a lot of stress on the CISOs trying to protect the organizations, with the organizations trying to do different things. He needs to be innovative, and his attitude should be, how can I get this done securely rather than saying no to things? So in a nutshell, I feel that a fit for purpose program could be a significant differentiator for the organization and even a competitive advantage.
Thank you, Venkat. I think you brought the aspect of first positioning and making sure that positioning is rationalized with the perspective of an assurance provider or a strategy enabler. But I'd like to get Manish's views. Manish, how is the interaction today? Are CISOs, I'm not talking about just this group, but in your perspective, are CISOs really working with the boards today? Are boards really exercising views that CISOs are providing about security and strategy?
Yeah, it's actually coming up more and more, Sony. As boards are realizing, it's no longer The data is no longer, just a necessity. It is absolutely the bloodstream of the organization, right? And more boards are realizing, and what they're asking the CISO for is really three things. First, educate the board. Where are the risks? How much is the risk? How do we resolve? Not everybody is a security expert, so educate me first, right? The second is propose solutions, right? And then the third is prioritize and resolve. The answer cannot be, do I have enough budget? The question is, do I have enough budget compared to all these other initiatives, and what is the risk we are going to take? That education is absolutely critical. And once you have the mandate, let's go resolve, and then the cycle begins all over again. Whether the cycle is a quarterly, 6 monthly, annual, whatever the frequency is. It's always that, educate me, propose a solution, and then go resolve, prioritize and resolve it.
Yeah. So I have seen in the number of boardroom meetings today, while organizations talk about business risk, financial risk, operations risk, and various other risks, when the CRO is presenting, there is also a new line agenda item called cyber risk.
Yeah.
And now it is really required for, let's say, the CISO to be present there, maybe for 5 minutes, to give a viewpoint on the cyber risk from perspectives of, let's say, process, technical, third parties, right, and educate the board. Exactly what you brought out. I'd like to get Andy's.
Sony, I will go one more step on that, right? Sorry to add to that. I'll go one more step. The different aspects of the board presentations are owned by different people. And they don't just have to be present, they own it, they present it, they answer any questions. For that aspect, which you're talking about, the security, in my mind, the CISO owns it, right? So yes, they will need to be present, but it's more than that, right? Yeah, they own the agenda, they go through all of the aspects, they answer the questions, they make sure it's a priority versus the risk and reward. How much risk are we willing to take? What can we present, right?
Thank you, Manish. I'd like to get a global perspective. So, Andy, what is your view on this?
Well, I guess if I can, I always like to be devil's advocate in these kind of conversations and give a kind of left field view. And what I'm about to say certainly worked for me in a past life. So, in a commercial organization, there will always be a salesperson, and there will therefore be a sales VP on the board. And they're the people who bring in the money, which drive the growth in the organization. I think that the least expected conversation is for the CISO to talk to the sales VP. But I found that that's really a good conversation. Going out and meeting your biggest customer with your sales VP and talking to them about their security concerns, I can attest that helps to increase sales. That gets the sales VP on your side. And I think any CISO or anybody talking to any board always needs a board sponsor and a board champion. So I think if you, the CISO, has helped to increase sales for the business, the sales VP is now your best friend, probably only for that month or that week when it happened. But that really helps. I think many conversations are between the CISO and the CFO to ask for more money. No, you can't have the money. How much do you need? And it becomes an adversarial conversation. If you've been seen to help to drive the engine of success, then the CFO is more likely to give you the money you asked for if you've helped to address the bottom line. And I think, but reaching out to one of your opening points, every business has got suppliers, every business has got customers. So as you said right at the start, businesses used to be a very castle where everything happened inside those walls. Now, most things are going on outside the walls. So we've talked about supply chain. So yes, the CISO should reach into the suppliers and the procurement people within the board. But I think the sales VP is probably the least loved person by the CISO, but probably could be the best friend. So that would be my opening recommendation.
Thank you, Andy. So you're saying we need to have a pivot through which you can get to the board and make sure the messages are sent. And I think
on the inside of the board, and sales is a good way of doing that. Yeah.
Sure. I'll move on to my next question. I think while organizations have matured from identify and protect perspective, which means understanding what are their assets, rationalizing, putting in a risk assessment methodology, categorizing as high, medium, low, putting in controls around it, which is the identify, and the next, which is protect, or putting in initiatives. Many organizations have matured because traditionally we have been operating in these two zones. But today the need of the hour is irrespective what identification you have done, what type of technologies you put in to protect, there is a method through which you can be possibly be a target of a cyber attack. And therefore, the need of the hour is not just putting in hygiene, which was identify and protect, but making sure that your detection, the response, and the recovery is stronger. Right? Now, with that in mind, right, if you look at how are CISOs really addressing this now in a COVID-19 situation where all these digital assets which people thought was critical to them was inside the organization, like servers, but now many of these workstations are outside the organization which are connecting to the internet directly. So how are CISOs really looking at this? Are they thinking that my entire threat base has changed completely? What was 10 servers is now 10,000 endpoints which are critical. So is there some views there? And I'd like to get views from Dr. Erdal to start off.
Thank you. I want to also add one thing to what Andy and my colleague said before I go to the second question. In my eyes, a CISO is not a hardcore person anymore. And if a CISO, as Andy said, doesn't understand the business to the cause, then I don't think he or she is going to be successful. As again, Andy said, he or she is going to be looked as cost center, where, as you all stated, cybersecurity is, of course, CISO's responsibility, as well as everybody in an organization. So back to your question. I mean, people, they know me. You see my books in the background. I used to say this for years, write this for years. Please don't wait until if you have the danger of getting corona, wear a mask. Take care of your personal hygiene. Keep social distancing. And, yes, if you look in human history for the last few hundred years, this pandemic keeps coming. It's not something new, right? 100 years ago was the Spanish flu. Before that, there was something else. Before that. So, and my advice to CISOs or board members used to be always saying, look, don't wait the incident to happen. But unfortunately, one incident is more effectful than 1,000 advices. What am I trying to say? If people could foresee that and use the benefits of cloud, use benefits of right cyber partnerships, they wouldn't be affected as they wouldn't struggling as they struggled in the beginning of the pandemic. Yes, you're right. Things moved. Honestly, look, I'm the regional CISO for Standard Chartered, okay, based in Dubai, but right now I'm in Sydney. I came here to enroll my son, but I cannot fly back because of the restrictions. But doesn't matter, as long as I have my PC, as long as I have the protections like zero trust, like proper cybersecurity partnerships, like least privileges in my account, or defense in depth, using the basics of cybersecurity, I should be more secure than anybody else. Anyway, I don't want to take anybody's time too much, but I hope I could answer the question.
Yeah. So I thank you very much for that, Doctor. Just want to get a view from Suchi. Suchi, in the banking environment, I know banking adopts the NIST framework. They talk about identify, protect, data, respond, recover. And today, the banking community is really having a challenge with the number of kind of cyber attacks. So what's your view? Is this something that the banking community is also looking at?
Yeah, I mean, look, from a bank's point of view, data security and cyber security have always been important, not just from the importance of the banking operation, but from the whole regulatory context. So even before the pandemic, I think the CISO's role was extremely important, and it is part of the CXO circles. I think the whole pandemic, and to quote Dr. Erdal's words, I don't think the organizations that have been successful transitioning through this pandemic are those organizations that haven't allowed the crisis to go wasted. So by that I mean is, all the policies, all the software, all the protection that we were putting in place, we've just fast-tracked it to scale it out to operate seamlessly in a virtual world. I mean, within weeks of this whole pandemic and lockdown hitting us, our dealers were operating from their home environments, trading with the workstations, with the relevant security in place, because trading has to happen in a surveilled environment, right? Voice surveillance, chat surveillance, etc. Yeah. All that was put in place. The whole regulatory compliance, getting the exceptions, getting the policy approvals, ensuring that data privacy laws are not impacted. All this couldn't have been done until and unless there was a proper partnership, as someone else already mentioned, partnership between the business and the security function, and continuous investment in this whole model, in this whole security model. Because now we are, the perimeter is now ever expanding, right? I mean, I'm using my smartphone, my laptop, the home environment. So you can't really close a perimeter anymore. So it always has to be always alert, self-protecting, self-healing. So I think that's something we're seeing a lot in the banking environment. And I think those banks who thought about this as a forward view are the ones who are coming out of this relatively unscathed and are able to actually turn this model into a business advantage.
Yeah. So to answer that, are we really putting adequate effort in the detection, respond, and recover? Are we really doing that from a CISO's perspective, or are we still aligned to the normal identification, risk assessments?
I think we moved onto the lines of detect, respond, recover quite some time back. I mean, this wasn't something we did now because of the pandemic. I think with the increased risk of malware attacks and phishing attacks, especially for a global bank, and if you combine that with our our whole anti-financial crime and anti-money laundering oversight. The three lines of defense that we have, the first, second, and third, they have to operate in this whole thing of always verify, right? Because the attack could come from anywhere, from internal or from external. So we've been, working in this detect, respond, recover mode for quite some time, not recently. So I think a bank would actually be advanced in terms of how the CISO's role and the CISO's relevance has increased within the organization, not just seen as a control function, but actually an enabler of the business.
I think Manish had a point.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah, I was going to build on what Suchi just said, right? There's one thing she said which was summarized as the risk was there before COVID. The issues was there before COVID. What changed in COVID is the scale. Instead of a few people who were working outside, the executives were traveling. Doctor was going to travel, even COVID or no COVID, to go drop his son, right? That was going to happen even before that, right? And he was going to take his work, and he was going to work on the airplane, and people did that. Today, everybody does that. That scale has dramatically changed. The scope has changed. You could say before COVID, HR was always inside the walls of this. Finance was always inside, but everything else was outside. Sales had to be outside. Now everything has gone outside, right? And the speed has changed, right?
Thank you, Manish. I get what you're saying. I think, while it was existent before, now there's enhancement to whatever initiatives we had put in, and it's faster. Right. I'll just get on to the next question, and this question is to Andy. Andy, as a CISO, what are the security priorities today? Keeping in mind the current work from home kind of situation.
So again, classically, hopefully going for a slightly left field and different answer. As all of the learning colleagues have said, I think work from home is done now. So for me, the big priority or the big recommendation to CISOs would be to think of teams' mental health and how teams work. So, I really feel for the analysts in the SOC who maybe in their 20s or 30s, they're dealing with massive volumes of data. You're being attacked by 10,000s of people every hour. There's a lot of stress going on there. when you're in the office and you can see people, or you do lunch together, or you socialize together, you can pick up those triggers. When all you do is exist on Zoom or conference calls, it's really hard to spot when your people are being kind of extra stressed. And I think that applies to the whole workforce. People all dialing in from their bedrooms with the dog and the kids in the background. There's a lot of extra stress parameters across everybody's business. That makes people make mistakes. Yeah, your fight and flight reflexes. Everybody's burned the adrenaline out. This is now a marathon, not a sprint. But particularly for the CISOs, my recommendation would say, let's forget technology for a while. Let's think about people. In the OSI 7-layer stack, it's layer 8. It's the biological soft issues that if the people in the CISO's team make mistakes due to being stressed or kind of not looked after by their boss, the CISO, then that's where the whole organization could be at risk. So that would maybe be my number one priority.
Okay, thank you, Andy, for bringing that softer aspect of what the CISO has to have from a priority perspective for his team. Going to Venkat. Venkat, while Andy addressed the softer aspect on the team, what do you think, if you are the CISO, are your top 3 priorities right now?
Right. Yeah, I'll focus, Sony, on the harder aspects. So one of the top things is we said, of course, work from home. So it's more WFX, where it's work from anywhere, from any device. And why I'm mentioning that is because now organizations have seen cost savings, like, because of COVID, work from home, they want to give up real estate. So the WFX phenomenon has actually, it's going to stay for a much longer time. So as a CISO, the train has actually left the station. So you need to quickly start planning, for the WFX situation. And for that, you need a proper security framework. Different organizations have different risk appetites. So it's not a one size fits all, but at least you should have a thought process as to how you're going to handle the permanent WFX going forward. So that's going to be my number one priority. And I'm going to say that, priorities because of COVID. The second thing is going to be cloud adoption. So because of COVID, again, organizations moved a lot of stuff to the cloud itself. So in case you have not paid attention to your cloud adoption strategy, it is very important that you start focusing on that. So that's I would say my second important focus area. And the third would be more of a corollary, to the cloud adoption. You would actually see a lot of applications now being ported to the cloud, but this movement is not going to be the traditional lift and shift. It's going to be a refactoring of legacy systems onto more like microservices based platforms. This kind of a porting would now involve a lot of DevOps kind of a development. So what is important for CISO, the third thing, in case you have not already started on this track, is you have to make sure that you are supporting agile development and you are actually integrated into the DevOps pipeline. And one thing is integrated into the DevOps pipeline at different stages itself. And you have to shift left also. Your traditional mindset of application security assessments is gone. So you got to actually shift left into the cycle, and you got to inject yourself at different stages in that pipeline to be able to secure your organization. So that would be my top 3 priorities with respect to the pandemic itself. But one very important thing, Sony, is if you have a security roadmap and there are certain top risks for your organizations that you need to address, they should still come and they should trump. I mean, for example, if you've got a poor patching cadence, a basic security hygiene, if you have not done those things properly, just have to make sure that the critical risks which need to be addressed as a part of your security roadmap, they should at the same time have the same priority as all these others.
Agree with you, Venkat. In fact, I have seen situations where organizations believe that if they had a 27001, they had addressed literally more or so many domains. And I ask them now that your people are out, the technology is in the cloud, everyone is remote working. The 27001 standard probably had 3 controls or 4 controls related to remote working, right? And there are many more standards out there for teleworking guidance, for the user, for an organization. There are NIST specifications which are coming. Are CISOs really looking at these new standards and frameworks which are there in these new dynamics? But people are still going back to the 27,000, which is good. But having said that, it is the relevance of how it needs to be looked at is completely different. Will a third-party auditor come into the employee's home and look at the asset today? Not really. Okay. How long will it continue? We don't know. So, but the CISO's priority should be, I would believe, that looking at the new standards that are out there in the current environment of working, looking at the new technologies out there in the current environment of working. What are the security areas we need to put in for those processes, policies, and technology? So that is exactly what you're bringing out, saying that while we will have a structured security roadmap, we know what our risks are. That has to be re-based, re-evaluated, and we need to look at, let's say, these three priorities which you brought out. Let's say cloud adoption, the sources, and the work from X, what you brought out, which is all creating these kind of situations. Any other views? I think Manish wanted to give a view.
Yeah, I'm going to add one more to it, and it could be a part of this work from X, which a nice word you coined. There is, I was just reading the Harvard Business Review September-October issue, and there's an article written by some ethical hackers, and there's two data which just hit me in my face, right? 90% of data leakage is happening because of phishing. And the last 6 months, the amount of bad emails which have actually been opened has increased by 30%. Right? People are staying at home. They're, probably working longer hours. They're more on the computers. They're opening a lot more of the bad emails, the wrong emails, right? And there's a lot more data. I invite you to read that.
Yeah.
I think what I'm summarizing is, the education.
So I think, Manish, you brought me on to my next question, but before that, I'll also give a viewpoint as to what's happening here. We have a lot of COVID.
Before that, if I could just, sorry.
Yes, please. We'll
I'm
give the
sorry
lady
to
a
talk
chance.
over someone, but yeah, I just wanted to bring that technology aspect and the software element that Andy alluded to together from an end user's perspective. I'm a technologist, but I'm also implementing what the CISO is telling me. And I think one very important aspect for making the CISO role business relevant is to look at the user experience, right? UX is very important for all technologists. And I think it's also important for the CISO as they implement their solutions and their policies, because you have to look at it from the employee standpoint and the customer standpoint in terms of what is the experience when they have to work from home for an extended period. There's one way of looking at it in terms of, control everything, stop everything, because we can't take a risk. But there's another growth mindset kind of way of looking at it in terms of, I will start allowing things with the right controls in place. So I think, it's an art that the CISO organization needs to look quite aggressively into in terms of making the whole collaborative experience seamless, whether a person working from office or from home, but at the same time, protect the risk and the threats that are so manifest. So I think it's an important aspect of the CISO role, which people should think about. I just wanted to share that.
And I think before again, you mentioned the UI. We all mentioned very highlighted important points, but don't forget, if you don't have a proper cybersecurity strategy, then all what you said should be in the strategy anyway. So everything should start with the proper strategy. And for your point, having ISO 27000 or all this, for example, when you say ISO, if you just get one thing from ISO, the PDCA, plan, do, check, act, doesn't matter where you are. If you just take this out of from there, you can apply all what we said into success. I don't want to talk. I want to just make that little highlight.
Sure.
The next question.
I think I'll need to get on to my next question because we are little falling back on time. And right from where Manish brought out, I just want to also relate saying that right now we are seeing a lot of COVID-based theme attacks for work from home users. Emails from a government ID tends to fall in a mailbox with an attachment like an Excel, which says that you can open this file and compute your work from home expenses, which can be reimbursed by your company. Now, every employee will open that because they feel they're going to benefit from it. Yeah. And for it to open, you need to have macro code available, and there you have, let's say, a malicious code inserted into the browser of the work from home employee. And this is a new way of how attackers are in fact getting into the browser, or let's say the endpoint of work from home employees. Second COVID attack theme currently in progress. On the same wireless router, you have family members. It could be kids or it could be elderly. Some of the elderly are actually getting onto gambling sites. The kids are getting onto gaming sites, and they're getting lured by way of levels, by way of rewards, by way of clicking on various other, and they're doing it on their devices, no doubt. But their devices are on the same wireless router on which your endpoint is seated. And because of malicious code of how it propagates and understands traffic, they're able to break into the work from home user. Which means, does the perspective on the degree of security awareness for employees now change, keeping in mind work from home scenario? Previously, we used to educate our employees by way of a CBT stating, okay, locked cabinet, clear desk policy. Those are irrelevant today because they're sitting at home. Mm-hmm. They need to now understand what is the meaning of accounts, what are the meaning of groups, what are the meaning of services. If there is a malicious code coming, is there a method in which I can understand what's happening and inform in advance to the incident handling team. Now, are we really doing that level of awareness that is required for the employee? I don't think so, because that's where those things are coming in from. And which is what I also want to get a perspective. Are we really doing this awareness bit from our organizations to the employee? Is it sufficient? Are we going that extra step to also have sessions for the employees' families? Just want to get views from you.
All right. Back again. What is cybersecurity? I mean, for me, cybersecurity is always, regardless of what it is, okay? Get COVID, for me, cybersecurity. Apply the basics. So if you don't think outside the box and don't build a strategy based on this, then, I mean, I agree on what you said, but this is the old kind of CISO. Yes, I know all these attacks happens because of these people, okay? And like Garmin, they make great devices. They just paid $4 million, for example, to ransomware attack. How? Most probably via phishing, most probably via vulnerability. But if you look at the core of this, lies always the same thing. Like, people are going to click on the email, right? Then why not just remove macro from Excel? Just disable it. How many of your employees really need that function there? So why you as CISO are not thinking that? I mean, I'm not saying you, I mean, or when you look at the other recent attack, like, how did ransomware start? Where is your monitoring? Why did you not notice when there was a system change? Or yes, you said you are in the wireless network, but hey, if I am using an end-to-end encryption, I know there are some methods to break this as well. As we always say, there is no way to stop the hacker, but it's our job to make their life harder. Mm-hmm. At the moment, return of investment for hacking is very low. All what they have to do is sit down, wait until Microsoft, Apple, or whoever announce a patch. And let's be honest, I'm asking 5 of you, how fast are you patching your computers? Your systems? Hold on, what does this mean? You are vulnerable to an attack. What does this mean? An hacker is going to wait for this moment, create the vulnerability, use this exploit to attack this vulnerability and hack you in. Okay, no problem. But did you apply, for example, you started the session with a great talk, zero trust, verify, everything and anything. If you put all this, the cost for the hacking is going to be more expensive. As a result, maybe they have to, they're smart, don't get me wrong. They are always, I believe, they are the front wheel of the bicycle. We are the back wheel, we just follow it as defenders, because they need to find just one, right, out of thousands, one to be successful. But again, let's think from the other side.
Yeah. So Doctor.
Stop. Yeah.
Yeah, so got the point, Doctor. Where I'm coming from is, and I'll probably get a view from Manish as well, are we getting that awareness levels to the employee? We understand there are hackers there. We understand technology, we can make those feature sets, changes and things like that. But awareness is the biggest thing, I would believe, because while we can make these changes. Yeah, go ahead.
No, Sony, I think I agree with you. I said this before as well, right? I think the employee education, awareness, training, whichever word you want to use, right, is absolutely critical. Are we investing enough now that majority of our workforce is working from home? The answer is no, right? Let's be very, very honest. The answer is no. And we need to do more as a company, as every company. There is yet another angle, and I think somebody touched on it before. There is the ease of use, employee centricity, and the security. And there are times when they are coming against each other, right? I give you a very simple example. This device of mine is MFA enabled, two-factor enabled, VPN enabled. I mean, it's very secure from all definition, right?
Yeah.
But the two-factor authentication comes on the same device. The VPN is on an auto start, right? So if my daughter takes this phone and she starts up, all she needs is my Face ID or my fingerprint. And she can VPN, she can get two-factor authentication, she can get everything on the same device, right? Replace my daughter with the person standing on the street, and we have a huge risk now.
Yeah.
Because we made it so simple for me to use this device, right? So at some point they come at loggerheads, and the art and science, which I think somebody called it the balance between art and science, right, is absolutely critical. How much simplicity do we give the employee? How much security? How much education? And then at times we have to say, I'm going to make it a little tough on you because of that additional security. And it's okay. You know, we all hated being patted down when we went to the airport. Today, it's part of life.
Yeah,
well, at least not for the last 6 months, but at least before that, it was part of life, right? Yeah. And some of that will be part of life as we are working from home, as we are learning to work from, work from X, right? I like that. I really like that.
So I'll get on to my next question because we're really, really short on time because I want to cover various nuances and aspects here. Due to the current working environment, which we all understand now, organizations are evaluating, or let me say re-evaluating zero trust. Zero trust was there 10 years back. It didn't find meaning at that point in time. But now because of COVID and work from home, people are saying that we will work on this new strategy of never trust, always verify. In other words, approaches a security state of mind where no device, no user, no workload, no application should be trusted. Do you think this is the right approach from the previous role-based trust, but deeply monitor? And I'll pass it on to Andy. Andy, I like your views first, and then Suchi.
Yeah, I mean, at the risk of answering a closed question, then I think absolutely. But I think to answer this question and to build on the prior one, we've talked about work from X, which again I love, and I'm now going to steal as much as I can. But how my home router or router is configured, or how my home iPad is configured, didn't used to be any business of my employee. Now, we here at GCA, we're an NGO, we build free, easy to use solutions. So one of which is called Quad 9. You know, you configure Quad 9 on your home router, you are massively safer from all of the things we talked about before. But why would any of you ever tell any of your employees or even suggest to do that? It was previously none of your business. Now, suddenly, back to the opening point about, you know, what about families and everybody else in the house? Suddenly, all of that is the employee's business and responsibility. So I think if we can get into a consequential mindset, so we've talked about training our employees, but you can train people a lot, but if there are no consequences, then it becomes a difficult conversation. Whereas if we say, if your children are doing this on the router and all of the money from your bank account will be stolen, that's a pretty big consequence. People start to listen to you then. And that starts to build, back to your question, into the zero trust environment. So yes, I'm a big fan of zero trust, but I think it only works if people are doing sensible things to improve the basic cyber hygiene. I think zero trust in the 80-20 rule is that final 20% without the first 80% to make things a whole load safer, of which, like we say, there were plenty of free solutions there, then that to me is complementary. Zero trust on its own just is a really difficult conversation. But yeah, I do agree, it's the way to go.
So I'll get to Suchi. Suchi, what do you think? I mean, is this something that the banking, because they're quite susceptible to various attacks, and they would probably go on this approach first?
That's true. And I think, the concept of a bubble is what I'll use, because a bubble is very topical now with the pandemic, right? So I think the trust, don't trust anything, always verify. If you balance it with how big can you make your bubble, then I think the challenges of employee awareness, the challenges of adherence to a certain discipline, a certain set of procedures is easier. And I think as a bank, we're seeing a lot of that happening. I mean, over the last few months, the kind of training that's going out now to our employees is about exactly the threats of working from home. We've done sessions with families in terms of explaining, even simple terms like clickbait and other things, which, other people may not have not know so much as we who are continuously working in this area. If we broaden how secure we can make our perimeter, then we always go in with that principle of verify first. But the minute we establish that this, my perimeter is secure, then we can start enabling certain things. So I think it's a combination of both, but absolutely, I think the trust factor has to always be verified. I wouldn't disagree on that.
Venkat, your views, because I know you run a lot of plants, operations.
Yes. I think this concept of zero trust has picked up, I think, for two important significant paradigm shifts in the last 5 years or so. It's not just because of the pandemic. One of the things is that the attack patterns, Sony, have changed a lot in the last 4 or 5 years and have become a lot more ubiquitous now. And these attack patterns are things like long-term persistence, attackers staying like 200 days on a trusted system, living off the land, right? I mean, using PowerShell, etc. Lateral movement attacks. They are now not attacking directly a system, but they are actually attacking some other system and then laterally moving and getting onto your crown jewels. So this attack pattern, like a significant change in the attack pattern, is one significant shift that we have seen in the last few years. That's one of the reasons why we are no longer trusting what we used to trust before, like a network or an endpoint. And the other significant shift which is happening now, Sony, is around this concept of objects talking to subjects, right? So on the other hand, in previous times, you had this concept of a castle, right? Everything was there, and we have mentioned this before also. Everything was there in the castle, so all you had to do was to build a moat, and then you are protected, right? But it's no longer now that the castle is everywhere. I mean, you can say it's as Suchi also said, the perimeter is gone now, right? So now you're talking about a series of objects or resources that need to be accessed from a series of subjects, right? Users, devices, IoT systems wanting to access websites, SaaS applications, native applications, data, etc. So this confluence basically, and here you have to do this security broking in between these heterogeneous objects and subjects. And that is why it's all become like, the zero trust and continuous verification. And then the other important thing is adaptive response. Based on your trust level, I will give you a certain level of fine-grained access. So that's the trend we are moving towards. It will be there, Sony, I think, in 4 to 5 years. But I think organizations will have to slowly start transitioning and planning for this now itself so that they can be ready in 3 to 4 years.
Thanks, Venkat. I need to move to my last question, which is around third parties, because we are really back on time. But I think I'll get a view from Dr. Erdal here. Do CISOs believe the organizations move to cloud environments are they increasing cyber challenges? If so, what are the considerations that we are putting in place?
I don't know about other CISOs, but I believe moving to cloud is making my life much easier.
Okay.
I believe using the cloud, like knowing that the responsibility should, like, everything lies in the knowledge. If you know what cloud provider is giving you, like if you know how to make spaghetti, then you will just make it. But if you don't know, if you never made a spaghetti, you just have the ingredients in front of you, it's no good for you.
Yeah.
So as long as you know the benefits, you don't sign blindly up. Because, and one other thing, most of the cloud providers, they come with one package to you. Instead of getting the package, look if it fits to you, or if you can fit to the package.
Yeah.
And if you can put all this together, putting your third party,
Okay.
ensuring you have a third party risk assessment will definitely make you more secure. Thank you.
Yeah. We have 30 seconds for anyone else who has a view on this specific point.
So
Manish,
I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree partially with Doctor. And the reason I say partially is, as we are increasing our workload into different third parties, into different, we are increasing the number of links in that chain. Right. So while the rock might be really solid, you're putting it in Azure and Azure is very solid and life is easy. The number of links have increased by one more. So we have to make sure as CISOs and CIOs and technologists that the links are secure. We don't have to worry about is Azure secure. Somebody else is taking care of that. Right.
I mean, actually, exactly what I meant. Perfect. It fits what I said.
Okay, all right.
Sony, just two thoughts on this. Just one is with cloud adoption, what's going to be extremely critical is visibility. Visibility to your data is going to be extremely critical. And the second thing is governance, because a small configuration mistake in a cloud can actually set you back millions of dollars.
Hold on. So are you telling that the configuration mistake in your data center is not going to result the same thing?
No, it is not. And that's why that is the main difference, is that in a data center, you still have
disagree.
A lot of other this thing, but in a cloud, a small misconfiguration can actually expose your data right on the internet. So, and then we have seen very, very large organizations make mistakes like this in the cloud. So what is important is that governance and continuous posture assessment in the cloud is going to be very valuable. I'm all in support for the cloud, but there is going to be a different, it's not the same bolt-on security as it's there for your data center.
Yeah.
So if you know what you're doing, it should be secure, more secure. Anyway, yeah.
So I'm very, very different in these views, because I've seen the last 15 attacks probably that's come in the news. And these are large companies. I don't think they're probably those applications or systems which have been compromised are something which was on-prem. It was probably on cloud, probably because of a third-party interface where something else happened, somebody else was in the news, right? So my perspective is that irrespective of whether the system is in the cloud or in your premise, if you don't put in adequate hygiene controls and have detection capabilities in real time, if we leave it up to, let's say, the cloud service provider to say, okay, you're in charge of security, while my crown jewel is in his environment, ultimately, I'm going to have the damage from a business perspective or an organization's perspective. I think we have got some good views. I'll wait for some questions. In the meantime, I think what we have understood, or let's say, have had a very, very good discussion was, I think the CISO needs to position himself first. That positioning and priority needs to be, should act as a business enabler. I think that was one point which came in. Second angle that we also understood was assurance provider. We need to move away from what CISOs have been aligned to be, thought through, to coming out as an assurance provider or as a trusted partner to the board itself. It could be pivotal through, let's say, a VP sales channel route, maybe not, maybe right or maybe wrong. This other aspect also that we saw that we have to emphasize a lot on the detection, respond, and recover, right? While we have done how much we can for these assets by way of policy standards, this is something that we need to really bring it up. We have also understood that while we have looked at various standards, ISO, something that Dr. brought out, we also need to look at the new age standards, which talks about reality issues that are out there currently. Cyber challenges that currently, which is primarily geared to the work from home user. There are other policies, there are specification standards. No doubt they're all in alignment to what we're doing, but they have special emphasis and focus on some of those areas as such. I think Andy brought up the aspect of, from a CISO's perspective, softness in terms of his team, because today, if I look at it, there are COVID-based teams who are in fact trying to attack administrators and security administrators of organizations. Because look at it this way, if you're on a network, you might put something called a bloodhound to identify which is the AD, because once you get to the AD on those X number of systems, you get probable significant access. Similarly, if I map it to people, I will look at the people in an organization. I'll make sure I'm able to put a rat tool in one of those administrators. I get access to, let's say, the routers, switches, firewalls, servers, applications included. So I think that is something where, because of the kind of work that these administrators are working from home, huge amount of data, and so in some cases people are working alone at home, right? So that emotional aspect of mental health, which Andy brought out, very important, especially for our CISO teams. And what Venkat brought out from a priorities for the CISO, basically the work from X, which I think I'm also going to start using. He also brought out on reflection scores services, and I'm sorry, there were 3 points. Venkat, my handwriting is a little messed up, but I'll come back to the 3 points. And I think we also spoke in favor of zero trust in the current environment, right? Because of the kind of always verify, never trust approach that it is covered. And I think from a cloud perspective, what we have understood is, while our applications, crown jewels, might be on the cloud environment, as CISOs, it is our responsibility to have adequate visibility. Visibility from the security perspective. Because tomorrow, if that application goes through some challenge, it is the CISO's priority which actually gets hampered, or let's say the KPI of a CISO is challenged. And we also understand that the CISO's KPIs have completely changed from 10 years ago, where they're probably looking at number of antiviruses or patches, number of to today, a very, very different perspective. Right. And I think with that, I'll just look if you have any questions, and I think Shikha, if you are on, or if the moderator from I don't think I have anyone on, but I think good perspectives that we have got across various aspects of people, process, technology. We looked at a lot of how we are creating awareness levels for our employees in the current environment. In fact, I know a couple of organizations who are going to the extreme level of conducting awareness sessions for families of employees, because they believe, and these are 1 hour sessions, like just webinars, saying that they're teaching that 7-year-old at home on security. They're teaching that 55 or 60-year-old at home on how to be aware of clicking on various links. Now, these are basically attack vectors for that third person who's your employee, who's in the same home, right? So I think people are changing their mindset in how we really need to address these newer challenges with respect to security. Any questions? I think the panel will be very happy to address. I don't see any questions, but any passing last.
Easy. They're making our life easy.
Yeah. Any last 20-second thoughts that this panel has overall?
I think if I jump into the friends and family thing, I once found myself doing cyber education for 80-year-olds as a favour to my father and a group he was in. It's very fulfilling when you talk to either young people or people outside the industry. And we do something with NCSC in the UK called Cyber First to bring students into the industry. So I think I would want every CISO listening to this to say, why wouldn't I do a webinar, not just for my staff, but for my staff's families? Maybe out of hours, maybe at lunchtime, we do brown bag sessions. But just hearing what youngsters and elderly people say about cyber, it gives you a whole different think about your business. And I think this is a business where we quite often get into groupthink, and talking to young people and elderly people or people outside the organization gives you more food for thought. It's a great thing for you, great thing for mental health, and it helps with the issue about families that you touched on, Sonny. Yeah.
Any other views on any other things that we discussed today?
I think we should also encourage people to join. Like these days, that probably the positive side of the pandemic is so many stuff started to happen via virtual. I mean, it's free. Join, learn. I mean, it's really not easy to bring this 5-6 people together and giving all these advices. I wish when I was starting, I had this opportunity. So I think this is grateful, and thank you for everybody who made this forward. And I'm not just saying this to sound cheesy, but there are so many webinars. Select the good ones and enjoy and try to enjoy the free knowledge.
Yeah. Manish, any last comments?
No, I think we've talked about it a lot. I think we've exhausted the topic.
Okay, Venkat and Suchi.
I think we should train our families on how to bear with us as we are always at home. So that's one important thing. Somehow they are putting up with us day in and day out.
Yeah.
So are we working from home or we work? That's the question.
Yeah, Suchi, yourself. We'll close with
you. From my point of view, I think one aspect I just want to highlight is that the CISO role is also now crossing boundaries. All of us have an element of CISO in us now. I mean, I'm a technologist in the bank, and I run data ingestion platforms for reporting risk, finance, treasury. But if I'm not aware of how I secure my environment, I can't do my job properly. So I think there are bits of CISO in all of us that we should now learn and put into practice. I know there are a lot of CISOs here and a lot of security consultants. I'm just coming in from a layperson's point of view and sharing my observations that I think the CISO piece is now in each and every one of us in the work we do.
This is exactly what I was trying to say. Thank you for repeating. Maybe CISO is responsible for cybersecurity, but it's everybody's job to contribute in security. Sorry.
So I think I think we are good. We have had a very, very good discussion, and I don't see the organizers coming in.
Here.
Oh, we can talk more. No problem.
I've been patiently listening to all the insights there. Of course, some very fascinating revelations. A big thank you to our panelists for their thought-provoking discussions. And on that note, I would request all the delegates to click on the agenda to have a look and to watch the next live session. Thank you.